actually so nervous that I'm not going to be able to find a romantic partner.
My ideal world and society, I think men should have to pay women for looking at them.
What?
You know what? If I have to wait till I'm 36 to marry a gorgeous NFL tight end who's like mega rich.
Listen to this absolute delusion. This woman is insanely obese, yet thinks that she deserves nothing less than a millionaire NFL player. This is the modern female mind in all its narcissistic glory. She's saying she'd rather die alone than settle for anything less than a multimillionaire athlete. This is a woman who has been so poisoned by social media and feminist propaganda that she genuinely believes she deserves a top 0.1% man just for existing. She's comparing herself to Taylor Swift, one of the most successful entertainers in the world, as if she has anywhere near the same value to offer a high-status man. This is what happens when you give women unlimited validation through social media. They start believing they're actually worth what their inflated egos tell them they're worth. Meanwhile, she's probably working some dead-end job and brings absolutely nothing to the table except demands and attitude. But in her delusional mind, she deserves a man who could literally have any woman on the planet. She wants to be paid for existing while demanding a man who's earned millions through actual talent and work. This is modern femininity, all entitlement, zero accountability, infinite delusion.
Oh, we like Taylor, if that's my outcome. If it's not my outcome, I'm not marrying, someone like that.
So this is a question for the guys. So I know many guys have said that they don't want to approach women anymore. Like, they're not going to approach her at a grocery store. They're not going to approach her at the gym. They're not going to approach her at the bar because why? Most women can just frankly be rude to guys or don't want them talking to him or don't want them talking to her. So, question for these guys that would say they don't approach women. If a woman went out of her way to make eye contact with you, looked away, looked back, maybe even held the gaze for a couple seconds, made sure she was within proximity of you, as well as then smiled at some point. If a woman goes to that extent, would you then change your mind on approaching her?
No.
Or do you just want the woman to approach you?
If I go on one more date, if I have one more encounter with a man in his early 30s telling me that what he's looking for is a hustler, that he's looking for a queen to build an empire with, to be hustling for the next 5 years, I'm officially tapping out, because what y'all don't get is us girlies in our early 30s, we've been hustling. We fell victim to the girl boss shit, and we was girl bossing for the last decade. We went to school, we started our businesses, we bought houses, we've been doing this shit on our own. We've been on our independent woman shit. And you talking to me about hustling another 5 years? My mans, I'm trying to have some babies. And you want me out here working too and hustling?
Here's a woman finally admitting the truth about the feminist lie, but she's still too delusional to take full responsibility for her choices. She fell victim to girl boss culture. Nobody forced her to prioritize her career over finding a husband in her prime years. Nobody made her buy into the lie that she could have it all without consequences. She spent her 20s, her most fertile, attractive years when she had maximum value in the sexual marketplace, chasing career goals and independence. She rejected good men who wanted to build something with her because she was too busy being a strong, independent woman. She probably spent those years sleeping around, partying, and believing the feminist propaganda that told her she had unlimited time to figure out what she wanted. Now she's hitting the wall at 30-something. Her fertility is declining, her beauty is fading, and she's suddenly realizing that the men she ignored in her 20s have moved on to younger women. But instead of taking responsibility for her poor life choices, she's angry at men for not wanting to wife up a woman who's already past her prime. The cognitive dissonance is staggering. She admits she fell victim to feminist lies, but she's still angry at men for the consequences of believing those lies. She wants a man to commit to her now that she's ready to settle down, but she's offering him her declining fertility, her career-damaged femininity, and her bitter attitude toward the very men she now desperately needs.
I left my husband 5 months ago and I regret it. No, you're not supposed to say that. I know I'm supposed to be in my living my best life, hoe era, whatever.
Here's the most honest thing any of these women said. She destroyed her marriage because feminist culture told her that being married was oppressive, that she deserved better, that she should never settle or compromise. She probably divorced a decent man because he wasn't exciting enough, because the grass looked greener somewhere else, because she believed the lie that she could upgrade to something better. Now she's discovering what millions of divorced women before her have learned: the dating market for post-war divorced women is absolutely brutal. The men who were willing to commit to her when she was young and unmarried aren't interested in her now that she's older, more damaged, and comes with divorce baggage. But notice how she frames it. She's not supposed to say that she regrets destroying her marriage. The feminist sisterhood doesn't allow women to admit they made mistakes. You're supposed to pretend you're living your best life even when you're miserable and alone. You're supposed to keep up the facade that divorce was empowering even when you're crying yourself to sleep every night. This is the real cost of feminist propaganda. It destroys women's ability to make good decisions and then prevents them from learning from their mistakes. They're trapped in a system that celebrates their self-destruction while forbidding them from admitting they were wrong.
Women, the roof over your head was created by a man, okay? The roads you're driving on, created by a man. Men are simple. They get the job done. They have to. Every day stressing if they can. Women, what do we stress about? What do we stress about the most, okay? What do we stress about pretty much when we wake up and then when we go to bed? Men. We stress about men. Now,
what you just witnessed is the complete mental breakdown of an entire generation of women who bought into feminist lies and are now facing the brutal consequences of their delusions. These women are living examples of what happens when you give mediocre people unlimited validation while telling them they deserve the world without earning it. Let's be absolutely clear about what we're seeing here. These aren't victims, these are the architects of their own misery. Every single one of these women had choices, and they consistently made the worst possible decisions because feminist propaganda convinced them that biology, reality, and consequences don't apply to them. The obese woman demanding an NFL player husband represents the absolute peak of modern female entitlement. She's been so poisoned by social media validation that she genuinely believes her existence alone makes her valuable enough to deserve a multi-millionaire. She's probably spent years taking validation from random men on Instagram and TikTok, collecting likes and comments that convinced her she was special. Meanwhile, she's likely been sleeping around with men who were using her for easy sex while having no intention of committing to her. She confused sexual access with actual value, and now she's shocked that high-value men aren't lining up to wife her up. The girl boss woman is even more pathetic because she's starting to understand the con but still can't fully accept responsibility. She admits she fell victim to feminist lies, but she's still angry at men for not cleaning up the mess she made of her life. She spent her prime years, when she was most fertile, most attractive, and had the most options, chasing career goals that ultimately mean nothing in the sexual marketplace. This woman probably rejected dozens of good men in her 20s because she was focusing on her career or not ready to settle down. She believed the feminist lie that she could delay marriage and motherhood indefinitely without consequences. She thought she could spend her 20s sleeping around and building her resume, then flip a switch at 35 and suddenly become wife material. Now she's discovering that the men she ignored or rejected in her 20s have either married younger women or learned to avoid post-war career women entirely. The high-value men she thinks she deserves are dating women 10 years younger than her. And the men who might have been interested in her 5 years ago have been beaten down by women like her and have given up on marriage entirely. But the most telling part is how she frames her situation. Even when admitting that feminist ideology damaged her, she still can't take full accountability. She fell victim to it, as if she had no agency in her own choices. This is classic female psychology. Even when forced to confront the consequences of their actions, they'll find ways to position themselves as victims rather than accepting responsibility. The divorced woman is the most honest of the bunch, and therefore the most tragic. She had what most women claim they want, a husband who was willing to commit to her, and she threw it away because feminist culture convinced her that marriage was oppression. She probably spent years complaining about her husband to her female friends, who encouraged her to know her worth and never settle. Now she's learning what knowing your worth actually means in the real world. Her worth as a divorced woman in her 30s is a fraction of what it was when she was a young, unmarried woman. The men who were willing to commit to her then have moved on to younger, less damaged options. The dating pool for post-war divorced women is filled with other divorced men with their own baggage, players looking for easy sex, and bottom-tier men she'd never consider. But she's still trapped in the feminist framework that prevents her from fully acknowledging her mistake. She can't say she regrets destroying her marriage because that would be admitting that feminist ideology was wrong. She has to maintain the fiction that she's living her best life even though she's clearly miserable. These women represent millions of others who made the same mistakes and are facing the same consequences. They prioritized careers over families, casual sex over committed relationships, independence over interdependence. They rejected the biological and social realities that govern human relationships because feminist ideology promised them they could have everything without trade-offs. Now they're hitting the wall, literally and figuratively, and discovering that reality doesn't care about their feelings or their feminist indoctrination. Their fertility is declining, their beauty is fading, their options are shrinking, and they're finally understanding that the promises feminism made them were lies. They didn't just ruin their own lives, they're spreading the same poisonous ideology to younger women. They're still telling girls that they can delay marriage and motherhood without consequences, that they deserve high-value men without being high-value women, that their careers are more important than their biological imperatives. This is what the collapse of Western civilization looks like, not armies invading or economies crashing, but women rejecting their fundamental role as wives and mothers in favor of chasing feminist fantasies that leave them bitter, alone, and childless. They've been convinced to destroy themselves in the name of empowerment, and they're taking the entire culture down with them. The men they rejected and ignored in their prime years have learned to avoid them entirely. The high-value men they think they deserve are dating younger, more feminine women from cultures that haven't been poisoned by feminism. And the next generation of women is watching this disaster unfold and hopefully learning from their mistakes. These women got exactly what feminism promised them: independence, careers, and freedom from traditional gender roles. They just never bothered to ask what the real cost of those things would be. Now they know, and it's too late to go back.